Mr Deputy Speaker, and I will rise tonight to speak to the member for Johnston's bill. I'll first like to just acknowledge the member for Fanny Bay's husband, who is also a police officer, and I know is a man of great integrity, and a man I would sincerely trust with executing the laws of this House, both factually and upholding the duty that he's been given. I'd also like to acknowledge member for Barclay's career, the Treasurer's career as well, and the Deputy Chief's father as we go through this. First, Deputy Speaker, I would like to acknowledge the families and their grief for any death in custody. I know particularly at the moment there are families grieving here in the Northern Territory. There are communities grieving, and on behalf of our government, and I think just the human side of every Territorian, a death is a tragedy. The death of young people are tragedies. And so we acknowledge the grief those families and communities are going through. What I will do, though, I will be speaking against the bill, and I'll aim to outline, using the policies, the bills that are currently in place, as to why I will be opposing it and why I think we actually have quite a strong justice system in the legislation, and so that's how I'll aim to speak to this bill. And so, outlining what we currently have in place, I hope to logically put forward basically the commitment to justice, transparency and accountability. This is a topic that is very emotional, and so what I'm aiming to do, which I think is the ultimate responsibility when we govern, it's very easy to be caught in the emotional side of these topics, where I think we need to step back and logically look at how best we can govern for the people of the Northern Territory. I really want to emphasise the importance of the coronial process. I truly believe it's a legally sound. There's been a continuous push since self-government to increase the cultural sensitivities of that office as well, and to ensure that it's publicly trusted. And that last word, public trust, is so critical. And I'll oppose it as well because even if it's not the intention, I believe we are, and there's a theme that has come through to erode the public trust in a number of positions, and this bill to pass would erode public trust in both our anti-police and our internal justice system. And I'll come back to what I think on a self-government and a decentralisation of power, especially when it comes to federal. And I'll come back to that at the end, but why I think we are best placed to get to the points the member for Mulcahy spoke of, why I don't believe a federal structure would be best to get there. So the coronial framework in the Northern Territory context, so we're governed by the Coroner's Act 1993 in the NT, which mandates independent investigations for all deaths in custody. So when a death in custody occurs, the coroner is mandated to conduct an investigation. The anti-coroner is a judicial officer, and this is a really important part, is independent. It is an independent of government, it is independent of police. And we have that structure at the moment. So we have the independent coroner. The NT Police act as the lead investigative agency under the coroner's direction and on behalf of the coroner. The coroner retains full authority over the scope, conduct and outcomes of each investigation. So government nor police can influence the scope, conduct and outcomes of each investigation. As we come here, I would like to focus now on the police side of that. I and our government has full confidence in the NT Police. I want to make that extremely clear. I believe they are perfectly placed, and I have full confidence in their ability to conduct investigations with integrity and impartiality. Officers are trained in forensic procedures, trauma-informed interviewing, and investigative best practices. And when it comes to my own electorate in Drysdale, when these things are going on, I want local police officers. I want my local constables. I want my local Aboriginal liaison officers. I want local interpreters, because they're trusted and known within the community. Palmerston, I believe Palmerston's a great big place, but we are a small, tight-knit community. We know the police officers, and we know their faces, and I believe there is an incredible amount of work going in from our NT Police to ensure that all people feel that they can trust the conduct of NT Police, and we've got some great initiatives going on at NT Police to grow our numbers, especially of Territorian Aboriginal police officers, which I think is fantastic. But the fact is, I want local Territorians policing in Drysdale, investigating in Drysdale, even for things like a death in custody. I want that local knowledge, that nuance that is the Territory to be here. I do not want anyone from Canberra or another state to come into my electorate and conduct those investigations. It was brought up, the member for Johnson's bill discredits police. I think even if that's not the intention, the bill does, and police officers will feel that. So I believe it undermines them, as these officers across the Northern Territory are trained and they have this duty which they take very seriously, and a lot do take it that they are a slave to the facts and to their duty of justice. Now, like all human beings, that won't always be perfect, and that's why we have more of that's why we have the coroner's office and a few other, which I'll now go into, the ombudsman, to cover when those issues arise. But so as I was saying, I want local police. Investigations, I believe, can be covered by NT Police without fear or favour with respect to the rule of law. And NT Police are expected to demonstrate cultural awareness and engage respectfully with Aboriginal families and communities. And protocols ensure investigations are both procedurally sound and culturally sensitive. I do think our police officers are best placed to deal with the issues and events that happen in the Northern Territory because they are trained here in the Territory. And I will stand firm on that fact. And I think the best way to actually overcome this problem is to recruit more within our Territory, more from communities from all over the Northern Territory. Further on independent oversight, so we have the NT Coroner, we have the DPP and the NT Ombudsman. These three different bodies all maintain their independence. The NT Coroner provides judicial independence and transparency in determining cause and circumstance of death. The NT Ombudsman, under the Ombudsman Act 2001 NT, has the authority to investigate complaints about police conduct and systemic issues. So if there is misconduct, which I'm not at all saying it doesn't happen, if there is misconduct, we have in place in the Northern Territory the Ombudsman Office to oversee that. If there's systemic issues which have been raised, the NT Ombudsman is there as an independent body to investigate. The Ombudsman can initiate own initiative investigations into the conduct of police. This all reinforces public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the process. and any findings of possible criminality will be referred to the DPP for review and recommendation of charges relating to the death, with a final report, and any recommendation from the coroner must be provided to the Attorney-General on completion without delay. So I've just outlined, I believe we have a very thorough system here in the NT that's very independent, and it's not just one, it's layered. So we have layers for people to hear grievances and to ensure that police are policed. I'll go back to some events in the past as well, which I think speak to this issue, and some of the learnings we can take. In the 1991 Royal Commission into Aboriginal Deaths in Custody, it made 339 recommendations, and many have been adopted in NT practice since that period. And some of these include mandatory reporting and the large body of work which is very much ongoing into culturally appropriate engagement. And that will be that's a continuous journey. For myself, that's something I've been trying to learn my whole life here in the Territory, and it's something I continually try to get better at as well. And it's something our police are always striving to do. We're obviously always continuing to refine the coronial process in light of these recommendations, and the Kumanjai Walker inquest demonstrates the seriousness to which these matters are treated. We're also looking at a review, it's been flagged for a review of the Coroner's Act to ensure the sustainability and maintain the rigorous standards of the office. And so the fact is we can always get better internally without having to go to the federal government. I think it's worthy to do a national comparison as well. So all Australian jurisdictions require coronial investigations into deaths in custody. NT's dual coroner and ombudsman oversight modelling is among the strongest nationally. The NT exceeds minimum national standards in public inquests, published findings and ombudsman review. It aligns with the international best practices and UN guidelines on transparency and cultural competence, which I have listed a few, but feel free to go and read them. So the coronial system is benchmarked against other jurisdictions for continuous improvement as well. What I'm getting at is nationally, I think we're doing very well when you compare us to other states. I'll speak about cultural sensitivity and community engagement. The NT's Coroner's Office provides culturally appropriate support for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander families, and NT Police have the expertise and access to interpreters to consult community leaders when appropriate. And we have made it very clear we want to grow that capability. And that's the word I've just used, capability. That is what the government believes it is. We are becoming a more capable police force by growing our Aboriginal force that serves within NT Police. And may I add, across the entire judiciary, including, be it in the Commissioner's Office, the NT Ombudsman Office, it will improve capability. The Ombudsman's role in police-involved deaths. So the Ombudsman is notified and reviews how NT Police conduct investigations into deaths in custody, especially when police investigate their own officers. The office has the authority to conduct own motion investigations should they see fit, examines thoroughness, impartiality, and cultural sensitivity of investigations, provides an independent channel for families and communities to raise concerns, and in high-profile cases, Ombudsman involvement has addressed community concerns and ensured transparency, essential in addressing perceptions of police, investigating police, and reinforcing public trust. Once again, we see this layered combination we have already in the legislative framework that ensures the public trust in the position. The coronial recommendations So coming to reform, the coronial recommendations lead to changes in police procedures, corrections policy and health protocols. That's an automatic process that comes down from the coroner. The NT government supports ongoing training in cultural competency and investigative integrity. It's committed to reducing deaths in custody through prevention and systemic reform, and coronial process promotes accountability, learning and prevention of future tragedies. I think, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we have a very thorough system here in the Northern Territory. It is very easy to get caught in the emotional grief, which is absolutely human when these events happen. However, our job is to govern, and we need to step back and genuinely ask, is bringing Canberra in the best option for Territorians? I adamantly believe it will never be on anything. I am strong in my belief that we need greater independence. I am a firm believer in the eventual statehood of this jurisdiction, and I do not want Canberra coming in to meddle with the Northern Territory. I will need to refute a few things. We have a case before us with the unfortunate death with Mr. White's passing. As we've already spoken in this chamber, and this is to Member for Daly, who holds quite a high office here in the Northern Territory as Deputy Leader of the Opposition. I genuinely believe we shouldn't be leaning into cases that are currently under investigation and currently involved in the judicial, and I would sincerely ask that the opposition ensures that we have a fair judiciary process as we go through. The fact is, we do not know the facts. We all would have some hearsay of what's happened. I've spoken to an alleged victim, but I will not state here any of that because it's up to the judiciary. It is not up to this House. So I think it is wise for us all to refrain. I would also ask, and I know this won't stop, but motherhood statements on behalf of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, I believe, is very disingenuous as well. In my electorate, the views of all people are incredibly broad. The views of Aboriginal people in my electorate are incredibly broad when it comes to these matters of how the judiciary should act, how law and order should be conducted, and it covers the entire spectrum, Mr. Deputy Speaker. So I know it won't stop, but for the record, I believe it's a very disingenuous to make motherhood statements based on any racial group or other simple identifier. So the NT government and I stand firmly behind the coronial process. I have full confidence in NT Police to conduct investigations with integrity and cultural sensitivity. The NT Coroner and Ombudsman provide robust and independent oversight. They're committed to justice, truth and dignity for every life lost in custody and call to uphold these standards and build a safer, more respectful Northern Territory. And to all the NT Police, know that I and this government fully back you. You are to be the right hand of the law, and we support you the entire way. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.